So I'm going to give it to you straight, completely unpolished. I am seeing that this job market is one of the hardest I've seen in years, if not decades. Clients of mine who are at the 15, 20 plus year experience level, at the senior and executive level, are seeing roles where hiring is taking much longer, like months, not weeks. Decisions are stretched out, and I'm also seeing offers being rescinded. Okay. Or I've seen clients who went in, started in the new company, and within a few weeks realized this is not what I signed up for. In all of this scenario, and I'm not even going to talk about layoffs and the geopolitical situation that's happening to us in 2026, I still have clients who are landing interviews and panel discussions at companies like Anthropic, Apple, Google, Novartis, and other small to mid-sized companies. What are they doing well? What are some strategies that you can take and apply into your own executive job search? This is what I'm going to talk about in this video. So the question today is not, is this market bad? Because we know it is. The question is, what's actually working despite this market? So a lot of the sort of strategic, very methodical approach that would work in the past, apply, wait it out, talk to a few people, send a couple of messages to recruiters, and then see what happens. That no longer works. And it's a question of adapting to what is happening around us. So, I'm going to be sharing 7 strategies that I'm seeing work with my clients. Number one, saying yes earlier, even when it seems messy. What does that mean? So, even when you see roles or you hear this in the grapevine, you hear it at the water cooler, that there's a role out there and you're like, I'm not sure I'm qualified for this role. I think it's too senior for me. I think it's too junior for me. It's not the right location for me. It's not the right fit. I come from sales. This is more business development. Doesn't matter. The idea is say yes to a conversation. You're not signing a contract. Not yet, right? And here I want to give you an example of a client of mine. Let's call her Jessica. And she saw a role which was a little too technical in nature, and she comes from sort of go to market, business development sort of background in the tech sector, but the technical part is not part of her job description. And this sort of technical sales type of role came up, which she was not particularly excited about. Like, she's like, I don't want to, I don't, when I read the job description, I don't get excited. And I think we romanticize that sometimes, when it has to feel good. Like, I have to apply because it feels good. Put feelings to the side, because the math and the data doesn't care about your feelings. Okay. So this is exactly what she did. And she, in spite of not feeling good aligned, like perfect alignment, said yes to the conversation. Both sides were like, you're not the usual fit for us, right? You're a little bit out of the box, unorthodox candidate. And guess what? They liked that. Now, we can't predict, but because she didn't take herself out of the conversation and because she stayed in that orbit, in that ecosystem, one conversation led to another, and she's going to be going at the panel level of interviews. So, this didn't happen because she was like, clearly like the right person and who processed all the rounds very easily, convinced everybody very easily. And despite all of that, like, she got invited. Got, she made herself go in spite of knowing the fact that she was not the perfect person for the role. So it's not a question of applying to roles that are out there. It's about entering a decision system. And when you enter a decision system, that system evolves, right? Sometimes it evolves right away and you hear the feedback and they want you back. Sometimes it happens a month later or 4 months later. But because you were in the room, you're top of mind. So make a decision that you're going to say yes to a conversation, even when it 100% doesn't feel like the right fit. Okay. So that's the first strategy to keep in mind. The second one is that interviewing has to be treated like a compounding skill set, not a one off event that you prepare for and you put everything to the side and you put like 24 hours and 48 hours and you like deep dive and prepare as if you're preparing for a final exam. Not quite. Being over prepared is definitely going to help you rather than winging it and treating everything like a fresh start. When I say over prepared, there's going to be a couple of very repeatable questions, sort of the top 5 interview questions, and you have sort of 3 to 5 reusable stories that have to be adapted slightly to the company. That's going to make a lot of time for you saved, right? And then practice the content of that and the delivery of that. With that, you should be in a really good place, right? The classic sort of tell me about yourself. Why this role? Why you? Why now? Tell me about a time where you had a success. Tell me about a time you failed. What are your salary expectations? What would you do if you came here in the first 90 days? Another thing you can do here as part of the interviewing as a compounded skill set is check with AI to accelerate your progress much more, right? So you can easily plug in a couple of job descriptions and say, "This is my resume. This is a job description. If you were the hiring manager, what would be the top 5 things you'd want to know?" And you keep those prompts, and over again, the time needed to practice is a lot less. So you can keep your sanity and just like any skill that gets better with time, interviewing gets better with time, but so does preparation. So, interview number 2 should feel easier than interview number 1. Interview number 5 should feel like you're home and so familiar, right? If every single interview feels hard, then you know that this is not working and the skill set is not compounding. So, one more thing to keep in mind is volume first, precision later. A lot of people I see try to get too selective too early in the process. So it's like what I'm seeing instead is at the early stage, say yes more broadly. And then at the later stage, you can afford to be a little bit more selective. And why? The reason is because you can't control the timing of how things are going to go. You may have another interview lined up and you're like, let me give this one everything. No, no, get a little bit more volume. We need more surface area so that we have more idea of how it's going to go, because you could be very advanced with one company and suddenly they go quiet, they ghost you. That happens, right? So instead of wasting your time and putting all your eggs in one basket, have a lot of good conversations ongoing even when they don't look perfect on paper. So you don't control the internal decision systems, you don't control the timing inside those companies, and you don't control which ones are going to convert. So you do control one thing: how many doors are you going to walk through? And because of this, keep the volumes high even when you're like, this is about to get into an offer, I've got an offer, I'm about to accept the offer, these guys call me for a first round interview, say yes to that. Volume early, precision later. Okay. Number 4 is that the visibility part matters, and do not overthink this. What do I mean here? Applications alone are not enough. They feel comfortable, it feels familiar because you've done this before, but that is the very low leverage that everyone has, especially in 2026 and beyond. What's working in addition is strategic follow ups after applying. I call this babysitting your application. If you know someone who can make an introduction, sort of make sure that your application is not going into this sort of black hole abyss never heard of again. You also want to make sure that you're reaching out wherever possible to the hiring manager with a very short and relevant strategic note so that you are remembered. And this can also mean re engaging older past conversations. Like, "Yeah, I did my MBA, but this was 15 years ago. I'm not in touch with this guy." Doesn't matter. What have you got to hurt? Like, what have you got to lose? We do feel a little bit hurt to the ego, but put the pride to the side. I always say this inside with my in my program with my clients, put your pride to the side, not the time to think about it. And sort of stay lightly visible. That makes a huge, huge difference. So you're planting so many seeds, you don't have control over which ones grow, which is why we want to plant more. So here we combine the volume part that I talked about earlier, volume plus visibility. Okay. Because some can grow in a month and they're beautiful flowers. Some grow in 4 months and some are complete duds. They don't grow at all. So, and some can grow when you least expect it. So, the best thing you can do is have visibility in all of these places. Okay. Number five, do some kind of small practical upskilling, especially when it relates to AI. You don't have to think about long drawn courses or very passive learning. Instead, think about the role that you do, the role that you're targeting. How can AI make it more efficient and more effective, more productive, right? So you can look at very small practical use cases where AI can help your future job or your current job, and you can apply the learnings immediately. Okay. So that can be, for example, uh, taking advantage of, like, in supply chain, how is AI changing the game, particularly in supply chain in the consumer industry, or in this particular SaaS company that is got clients at the enterprise level in healthcare. So the more specific it is, the better. And then take advantage of AI so that you can stress test some of those job descriptions into interview questions. Or you can stress test faster company research than you could on your own, and sharper follow ups. So let AI come along as your companion, as your friend, to compound the results and accelerate the quality of results. So this is not about learning AI for the sake of learning AI. It's about learning to think faster and clearer. The next 2 points are gonna come across as fluffy. They are anything but. Energy management is part of your strategy. Now, a client of mine shared this recently. I spend most of my day outside. I go for a walk with my dog. I meet people. I go to the cafe. I do some work. I do some sports. And this is particularly helpful because I do my emails in the morning and evening. So he is not exhausted. He's not tired. He's not burnt out, because the definition of burnout would be, if you're looking full time, is to stay in front of your laptop or your screen day in and day out, which is a recipe for disaster, right? So instead, manage your energy, because energy management is going to help you. Immediately, the results are going to compound. Interviews are performance based, right? So when you have lower energy, you have flat delivery. It's very noticeable to the interviewer. And when you have flat delivery, even if you're the best person for the role, the other side is not convinced. So that's problematic, right? So you're not just sort of learning how to do job search, you're also learning how to manage your ability to perform in an interview repeatedly, every single time, appearing at the best level, at the best version of yourself. A client of mine shared this recently. He said, yeah, I'm going through like 10, 20, 30 interviews, and it's hard. The first three, first four, you're like, oh my gosh, tell me about yourself. You're like, oh, great. And then the seventh person, tell me about yourself. And it's very hard. And I know this from experience. It's very hard to stay motivated and appear energetic every single time. But think of an example. Think of a couple getting married. A couple getting married. They hire a photographer. So for that photographer, this could be the 100th or 200th or 500th wedding. But for that couple, it's the first time. So tell me about yourself. 17th time someone's asked you in this last month. But for that person, it's the first time. So you show up at the best possible level and fresh energy level that you possibly can. Lastly, mindset. That's a word that gets thrown around all the time without being understood. I'm not going to talk about blind optimism here. That's not the point. And I'm not going to be in denial because this is hard stuff. And I've learned this from experience. I've done job searching right after 9/11. I've done job searching after the global economic financial crisis in 2011, and then pivoting my career during COVID. So, three things will help you: the discipline over motivation. So, tell yourself, I'm going to take this action and I'm not going to overthink it. The discipline could look like I'm going to have 5 or 8 conversations, good quality conversations every single week. When I say good quality, I don't mean like, hi, how are you, but going a little bit deeper. Tell yourself you're going to do it. And that helps with overthinking, right? Discipline over motivation. Motivation comes and goes. You have to work on it. Discipline stays. If you tell yourself, I have to do it whether I like it or not. Secondly, consistency, right? Consistency over intensity. Consistency, doing it repeatedly, intensity, doing it a lot, and then taking a break for a long time. That doesn't always work. And of course, action over overthinking. You've got to remember, my coach used to teach me this: some will, some won't, so what? Some processes, it will convert. There will be others that won't reply. There'll be others that ghost you. So what? Doesn't matter. It's not failure, it's part of the system. Okay? The sooner you learn this, the better it is for you. So, if I have to simplify everything that I just shared today, say yes earlier, even when it doesn't feel like the right fit. Stay in motion. An object in motion stays in motion, right? Get sharper every single time. Build small, real edge over how you can do your role better. Stay visible. Protect your energy. And finally, you can always be selective later. So don't confuse uncertainty with lack of progress, because in this market that we're living in right now, a lot is moving below the surface before it becomes visible. I hope this helps you. What is the most helpful tip from today? Share it in the comments below. I'd love to read it. Thank you so much for watching.